I didn't hear who switched what, but what he did to Obama was he spoke and he gave like about 6 or 7 words and he stopped. Yeah. And Obama thought, well then I'm supposed to repeat, but then he gave like 2 or 3 more words.
Okay, I'd like to call this meeting for January 20th, our semi-monthly Town of Plattsburgh Town Board meeting to order. If we could at 7:15. We had some hearings prior to this time, and the hearings have completed, so we'll begin our regular meeting. If we could have a roll call. Oh, I'm sorry, we didn't do the pledge. Thank you, George. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Especially on a day when we just inaugurated our 44th President of the United States with great hope and great unity from coast to coast. Roll call, please.
Bernard Bassett.
Here.
Thomas Wood.
Here.
Sheila Brockway. Here. Gerard Renada.
Here.
Martin Mannix.
Here.
James Coffey.
Resolution 0936.
Resolved that the minutes of January 5th, 2009 and January 12th, 2009 be approved and the reading of the minutes be dispensed
Have a
with.
motion.
So moved.
Mr. Wood, second.
Second.
Ms. Brockway, any discussion? If not, we'll have a roll call.
Thomas Wood.
Yes.
Sheila Brockway.
Yes.
Gerard Renada.
Yes.
Martin Mannix.
Yes.
Bernard Bassett.
Yes, this is the portion of our meeting when we ask if anyone would like to address the board. Is there anyone that would like to?
Going once.
And if not, we move on. Now, I remind you that Resolution 38 is now 37. This is a seeker resolution.
Yep.
Should be number 37. Just change it on your document.
So moved.
Whereas Part 617, State Environmental Quality Review, Section 8-0113 of the Environmental Conservation Law provides for the review of projects which constitute an action with respect to the effect of such projects on the environment. And whereas the Town Board of the Town of Plattsburgh has adopted the provisions Part 617, State Environmental Quality Review, and whereas a determination of the effect of said project or action on the environment is necessary to determine whether a draft environmental impact statement is required. And whereas the effects of the project or action on the environment are to be examined by all agencies involved. Whereas the Town Board has before it the project or action known as Local Law Number 1 of 2009, Outdoor Wood Boilers in the Town of Plattsburgh. And whereas the project has been determined and is hereby determined to be a Type 1 action requiring the assessment as to its effect upon the environment. Whereas the Town Board was determined to be a lead agency, and if no objection is made from any other involved agency, the lead agency in accordance with Part 617 State Environmental Quality Review, for purposes of assessing the effect of said project on the environment and determining whether the said effect is sufficient to require the preparation of a draft environmental impact statement. Now therefore be it resolved by the Town Board of the Town of Plattsburgh as indicated.
We have a motion.
So moved.
Mr. Mannix, second. Mr. Renada, any discussion, any questions?
I'd just like to make a comment if I could. I think I'd really like to extend my congratulations to our zoning enforcement officer during that period. You know, we put a moratorium in place and we attempted to fast track this legislation. We had a resignation or a retirement in the midst of it, and yet we still did get this done, I think, in a fast track fashion. And they're really to be complimented. Steve, you really run with this and provided a great deal of leadership. And CJ, we thank you for your work to get this through.
Thank you. Speaks on behalf of all of us, absolutely. And I've had a couple of calls from other municipalities that recognize the need for this kind of control and haven't been able to get board support or the community to get behind this. And you know, this is it really is making a good decision. It's tough to control and regulate, and especially in rural areas. Like, you know, I can't even go out and burn my trash. Come on, but They do a good job, and I appreciate you summarizing that for all of us. You're absolutely right, Marty.
We have centers of population, and we understand what the consequences would be if we didn't take action. And then we had people who irresponsibly installed one of these things or irresponsibly operated one of these things. You know, it's a different problem, and I really feel a lot of anguish for the people in towns where they don't have that density, but you nevertheless have a couple neighbors who can really be impacted by the same problem. Mm-hmm. And I've had likewise conversations with a couple representatives of other towns who are interested in our legislation because they think they're going to have to move in that direction. They can see the problems coming.
Thank you. Any other comments or discussion? If not, roll call, please.
Thomas Wood?
Yes.
Sheila Brockway?
Yes.
Gerard Renadette?
Yes.
Martin Mannix?
Yes.
Leonard Bassett?
Yes. Resolution 38. This is the local law.
I can read that a little bit quicker.
Go ahead.
Resolution 0938, local law number 1 of 2009, outdoor wood broilers. Whereas the town board of the town of Plattsburgh has considered the proposed local law number 1 introductory of 2009, a local law providing the use of outdoor wood broilers. And whereas said local law introductory number 1 for the year 2009 was duly introduced at the meeting of the town board as introductory local law number 1 of 2009. And whereas the required public hearing on the proposed local law was duly held prior to this meeting of the town board, and the town board has considered all comments from all persons regarding this proposed local law, both as submitted in writing as presented orally at the public hearing and comments at the meeting. Now therefore, it is resolved that the town board of the town of Plattsburgh, after review of said proposed law number 1 of 2009, review the consideration and comments made in the public hearing. In further consideration, adopts the local law as local law number 1 for the year 2009. And it is further resolved that the attorney for the town, acting for the town clerk, be and hereby directed to cause local law number 1 for the year 2009 to be duly filed with the Department of State of New York as required by Section 27, Subdivision 1 of the Municipal Hamburg Law. This resolution shall take effect immediately.
We have a motion.
So moved.
Mr. Wood, second. Ms. Baracco. Any discussion? As we have the authors before us, it's a good time. We did discuss this prior concerning a couple of the items in Section 6, and have decided to adopt the law as it is, and will monitor in the event there are some concerns requiring a number of variances that the law can be amended, as opposed to making some corrections as indicated by the county's review, and then delaying the process and having to start it all over again.
I don't think we should have any variances because this is detrimental to the health of people to have these types of things. And as I said before, I was opposed to having them in their entirety. But under the consideration of this, I'd hope that we wouldn't have any variances.
And I'd just like to add that, I'd like the record to show that at the public hearing held tonight, there was a couple people in attendance. There was no major opposition to this local law going forward. And with all that due consideration given in other meetings, I think that we're well positioned to go ahead and pass this. I think we've done our homework, we've covered all our bases, and we've set out to the public to assure them that their comments and concerns have been considered and heard.
This actually, this evening was actually the second public hearing with similar results the first time, just to be sure everyone was given an opportunity if they had comments. If there are no other questions, I would ask for a roll call.
Thomas Wood?
Yes.
Sheila Brockway?
Yes.
Gerard Renadette?
Yes.
Martin Mannix?
Yes.
Leonard Bassett?
Yes. Thank you. Drive safe. Thanks for coming.
Safe trip.
Thank you, guys. Thank you.
Resolution 39.
Resolved to receive a report from Amy Duquette, Town Clerk, for the month of December 2008.
Have a motion.
So moved.
Mr. Renadette. Second, Ms. Brockway. Any questions or comments? Yes, she has. Okay, roll call.
Thomas Wood?
Yes?
Sheila Brockway? Yes. Laura Renadette?
Yes.
Martin Mannix?
Yes.
Leonard Bassett?
Yes. Resolution 40.
Resolved to receive the year-end report from Amy Duquette Town Clerk for the year 2008.
The motion.
So moved.
Mr. Wood, seconded Ms. Brockway.
Yep.
Any discussion?
It's even more thorough.
Yeah.
Yes, it is, and I know I've mentioned it before, but getting detailed reports like this from our departments, I think, is really important. And with 5 people looking them over, I think we're more apt to surface trends, issues, concerns, and that's a very good thing. We appreciate it. It does take time, as you all know. It's easier not to have a report than to prepare one.
I also think that the other thing it does is it establishes precedence and history. That this is the manner in which you want to have your departments functioning.
Absolutely.
Because, you know, we've had periods where we didn't have this kind of reporting.
And you know, Amy needs to be congratulated too on getting them out to us in a prompt order. Having them at the work session and having all that time to review them was a benefit too.
It really adds to a lot of the, as we try to be very transparent, very open, and with that said, I'd note, you will see, in addition to the town's website, if you haven't been there recently, the LDC is up with full-blown disclosures of inflows and outflows and activity, nice picture of the LDC board and so on, which has been quite an effort. I met with TJ Myers Friday afternoon. We spent some time. He's really working on upgrading the website in general. We're going to have some discussion about that at our next department head meeting as well, to get information to him faster, to upgrade and update photos. I want to get a couple of inexpensive digital cameras so they're out there. We should be having rotating photos of projects at various stages of development. So when people go there, there's a reason to go. They're seeing new things. It's dynamic. It's not static. And it represents us for the, the growing, energized community that we are. But do check the LDC site, and I'd encourage you, if you like what you see, to let Mr. Correll know you checked it out, and give him an attaboy. He's really been working hard on that as well. Also, it's, I guess, generic to the clerk's report. Marty and I met with our insurance broker. We reviewed the NYMER policy for 2009. One of the things that they were able to work out is the liability coverage for our dog control officer when he has issues that he has to take to court. So, we're in pretty good shape there. And that's another item. We had talked about a couple of things.
We've got 3 situations in a town where we have town employees who end up having almost a prosecutor's authority, and they extended to us the insurance coverage for protection in those situations.
Which you hope never to have, but also for our employees who are acting in those capacities, they need to know the town is covering them. And I did get the numbers we needed relative to total replacement for hardware, software, servers, and have moved that on to Mr. Prescott, and items we had discussed. Good. Okay. But it does. It does make us transparent. It does create an expectation that I hope long after we're gone it continues in the town of Plattsburgh. Thank you. Again, a roll call.
Thomas Wood? Sheila Brockway?
Yes.
Gerard Renadette?
Yes.
Martin Mannix?
Yes.
Leonard Bassett?
Yes, I think we'll have to mark Mr. Wood as absent
Temporarily.
for the record. Resolution 41.
Resolved to receive and place on file a report from Stephen Imhoff, Codes Enforcement Officer, for December 2008.
Motion?
So moved.
Mr. Renadette, second.
Second.
Mr. Mannix. Any discussion?
And again, it goes without saying, Steve presents us with a very good up-to-date report also, so he's to be congratulated and thanked for his conscientious work. Okay.
Marie helps quite a bit.
Yeah.
The brains.
Well, thanks, Maureen.
It's sort of like a computer. You're only going to get out of it what you put into it. So leadership is always the key.
Yeah.
And you know, in that department, since we all began a little bit back of looking at the cost for permits and whatnot, we began to focus more and more on you've got to run it like a business. You've got to think about what comes in, what goes out, and so on and so forth. So you know, I'm very very pleased with what the departments are doing, and these are very good reports. The addition, you mentioned it last work session, Steve, the addition of seeing the building monthly report, so everyone has a sense of what's going on where when the earth is moved, and you know, someone in the community says, gee, can you tell me what's going on? It's
We
pretty
get quite a few insurance guys that come in want to know the same thing. We have the VAS new software that's been tremendous the last 3 years, where it can generate more reports. You can see what it is, what the valuation was, and it helps FA or our assessing department say, all right, this is what they're saying it's worth. What is the real world? Ups, down. The VAS software is just great for us to be able to generate tremendous reports.
And hopefully we will see that. I'll go back there. We're going to spend a lot of money. I did put in your mailboxes when the training is taking place, if you want a finer breakdown of what's going on during, you know, what hours of the day, because you have an interest in some part of it, I can share that also. But certainly having the tools, and I think as we want to see summaries and graphs and, you know, reports of how does this compare to, you know, what's the 5-year trend, we can get it out of there. And that way we'll be using the data to drive our decision making. If there's no other discussion, I'll ask for a roll call on number 41.
Thomas Wood,
Yes.
Joel Brockway,
Yes.
Gerard Rendez.
Yes.
Martin Mannix.
Yes.
Bernie
I
Bassett.
vote yes on 42.
Yes, and you'll vote yes and 40. We put you down technically as absent.
Well, no, I'm allowed to, according to the rules. Same meeting, I'm allowed to. I'm allowed to.
I'm a building principal. Be careful. You have to get a pass next time.
Raise your hand.
Resolution
He's
42.
the hall monitor.
Resolved to receive and place on file a report from Bill Von Bargen of the Planning Department for January 2009.
So moved.
Ms. Brockway, second.
Second.
Mr. Wood. Any discussion? And again, Phil, we're here, and I'll make sure and pass those comments on to him.
Great, we know what's going on and what people are asking for.
I think, again, I would, you know, I know we're sounding like a mutual admiration society, but I really do believe that, you know, people do deserve a moment's recognition for the work they're doing. That office right now is undermanned. They're short a person in that office, and they're advertising and trying to fill the position. We've started the committee work on the comprehensive reuse plan, and Phil is really running with that program, and he's the key resource person to that committee. That committee is really doing a lot of work, and he has got, you know, everything that they've asked for to them in advance. I mean, it's just, he's doing a great job, and I just think it's important that that be said. You get people sometimes, it's really to sit back and they wonder, you know, are people collecting their paychecks?
They
You
are
know?
here.
Well, they're earning them.
That's right.
They are here.
You know, the town's getting
They're
top
getting their money's
value.
worth. That's right.
Absolutely.
And, you know, and I think I commented at one point also that as we look around and we see a lot of growth in the town, we've had very, very little expansion of staff. We brought in a little bit of clerical, but we've got pretty much the same workload handling a lot more demands than they were just a little while ago. So that's, and I know it's important to them that, you know, the board acknowledges and recognizes that too. Any other comments? Roll call.
Thomas Wood,
Yes.
Sheila Brockway.
Yes.
Gerard Rendez.
Yes.
Martin Mannix.
Yes.
Bernie Bassett.
Yes. And hopefully we're conveying that to individuals that might be watching this on cable TV. Resolution 43.
Resolved to receive and place on file a report from Melanita Fayette, Recreation and Youth Service Director for December of 2008.
Have a motion?
So moved.
Mr. Wood, second. Mr. Mannix. Now, Marty, you're going to have to say the same thing.
Yeah, same thing here. I think Mel's doing a great job, you know, the whole department is.
You know, I think we just recently came out with the newsletter, and you know, her report in the newsletter, there's any number of items there that, you know, that are, they're great, they're unique programs that this town has to offer. They really are. She's doing an outstanding job.
I didn't think there were any new programs yet left to be offered
But I
to
found
residents,
some.
but yet Mel has gone out there and she has found some, and she has done the legwork to get us up and running on these. So I agree, and you know, again, I guess we're our department head's biggest fans, but you know, the public needs to realize that they are getting their money's worth.
And she's running those programs. I mean, they're not
They're not.
high-cost items to the town or to the
No.
citizenry.
Yeah.
You know, she's putting those programs together very well.
I shared with her a copy of a report done with the Adirondack Young Professionals Group and the Technical Assistance Center at Plattsburgh State. And I've got, you know, a copy if anybody would like to see it. But one of the things they're looking at, and the previous administration in Albany was very concerned with the brain drain. New York State had a brain drain problem. I think we all know what that means. This study interviewed a number. It was, I want to say, 40,000. It was a significant number of young professionals across upstate, Clinton, Essex, Franklin counties. And they were doing a study of their perceptions and needs and, you know, why they stay in the area, why they are planning on leaving the area, and so on. One of the things I shared with Mel, and I gave her the report because, in fact, she has a grant going out again, but she's always looking to write grants, and you need to have a lot of documentation. The young professionals were indicating the significant importance of recreational, of cultural, social, in their decisions to stay in a community. And I was somewhat pleased with the upstate counties, the satisfaction level of young professionals in Clinton County with especially recreational is pretty good. But when we look at the bigger picture, and again, we try to say, you know, how come Champlain Valley looks like they're doing pretty well? You're an anomaly in this in economic crises. It's hard to identify an item, and maybe that's the problem. We try to find a solution. It's collectively a number of things. And I have to say, after reviewing that report, and exactly what you're saying, we look at the programs that she provides, that makes living here pretty nice. This past weekend, the program they did at Beartown was packed with families and kids and tubing. I mean, when you're having fun living in a place, that makes other things work pretty too. It's an important part. And we have research now that, you know, really indicates that's a factor. So, you know, you're right. And again, when you get into economic crises and everybody's feeling pinched with the dollars they pay for services, you might want to think, hey, I'll tell you one thing we don't need, and that's, you know, arts and parks and recreation. You know, that can go. Well, it can't. Because if that goes, we start slipping. And if you're going to have it, it might as well be a good one. So, but that report just came out, and it really underscores the importance of that kind of program. Anything else? Roll call.
Thomas Wood?
Yes.
Sheila Browflight?
Yes.
Laura Greenberg?
Yes.
Martin Maddox?
Yes.
Larry Bassett?
Yes. I believe you all received a draft of the collective resolution. The next 5 are identical with one exception as far as that being the entity that benefits from few cell agreements. So we're just going to pick up 10 minutes here.
Whereas the town has determined that it's in the best interest of the community to allow certain entities the ability to purchase fuel from the town of Plattsburgh to the extent that said entities would otherwise be entitled to purchase directly from the New York State contract, and the delivery system is readily available for dispensing the product to these entities. Whereas resolutions 09-44 through 09-49 have existing agreements to purchase fuel from the town of Plattsburgh. And whereas each entity is located in the town of Plattsburgh and provides services to the town of Plattsburgh residents. Now therefore is resolved that the town board hereby authorize continuance of existing agreements with charges based on the New York State contract plus 2 cents per gallon to offset maintenance, operation, and equipment expenses. And in the case of diesel fuel, 4 cents per gallon to cover the cost of the diesel clean and is it cetane? Cetane boost added to ultra-low sulfur diesel fuel, as well as maintenance, operation, and equipment expenses as might be required.
Now, I remind you as you move and second and vote on this, that motion and vote will be extended through the 5 resolutions.
Okay,
We have a motion.
So moved.
Mr. Renadette, a second.
I'll second.
Ms. Brockway, any discussion?
Yes, under the third whereas, just put and/or.
Okay.
I'd just like to mention that the 6 that we're talking about is Cadyville Fire Department, Cumberland Head Fire Department, CVPH Ambulance Service, GCEO, Morrisonville Fire Department, and Morrisonville Scholar Falls Ambulance Service.
Anything else? A roll call.
Thomas Wood?
Yes.
Sheila Brockway?
Yes.
Laura Brennett?
Yes.
Martin Mannix?
Yes.
Bernard Bassett?
Yes. That should move us to Resolution 0950, if I'm doing my math.
Whereas the town of Plattsburgh has had an annual contract with the Clinton County Mental Health Association doing business as employee assistance services, whereby the agency provides informational services to the town as an employer and, among other services, provides counseling to employees of the town. Whereas the agency will submit to the town its Town of Plattsburgh Employee Assistance Services Annual Report from January 1st, 2009 to December 31st, 2009, upon completion in January 2009. And whereas the town board has provided with the general fund of the Town of Plattsburgh 2009 budget the sum of $25 per annum per covered employee for the renewal of its 1-year contract with agency. And whereas agency has submitted a proposed contract dated as of the first day of January 2009 for a 1-year renewal and the annual contract between agency and the town for the sum of $1,440 per annum to be paid by the town to the agency upon execution of said contract by the town. And whereas the town attorney has approved as to form the 1-year contract submitted by the agency. Now therefore it is resolved that the 1-year renewal contract submitted by the agency is, and the same is hereby approved, and the supervisor is hereby authorized to execute the same for the year 2009.
Have a motion.
I'll make a motion to that effect.
Mr. Mannix, second.
I'll second.
Ms. Brockway, any discussion?
Certainly, it's a service that we use, and that's needed.
And it's extremely cost effective.
Yep.
Yeah, it is.
Anything
Especially if
else?
somebody's having trouble and they need some help, so.
Roll call.
Thomas Wood?
Yes.
Sheila Brockway?
Yes.
Laura Brennett?
Yes.
Martin Mannix?
Yes.
Bernard Bassett?
Yes. Resolution 51.
Whereas it is necessary for the town of Plattsburgh to provide risk management services and municipal property and liability insurance. Therefore be it resolved that the supervisor is authorized to renew its agreement with Cool Insuring, principally located in Glens Falls, New York, to provide risk management services and as insurance broker for the town to provide municipal insurance coverage, and it be further resolved that after careful review of the town's needs and market options, and as recommended in a letter dated January 15, 2009 from John Dienick, CIC and Vice President, Property and Liability Insurance for the period of January 20, 2009 to January 20, 2010 shall be provided by NYMER Reciprocal in a premium of $134,600, a rate approximately 8% lower than the rate premium rate in 2008.
Do we have a motion? Mr. Renadette, second.
I'll second.
Ms. Brockway, any discussion? If not, roll call.
Thomas Wood?
Yes.
Sheila Brockway?
Yes.
Laura Brennett?
Yes.
Martin Mannix?
Yes.
Bernard Bassett?
Yes. Resolution 52.
Whereas the Town of Plattsburgh Town Board wishes to promote and maintain the quality of living by providing quality services and facilities and to and for all of its citizens. And whereas the Town Board does wish to accomplish this mission with respect, competency, compassion toward everyone, and whereas the Town of Plattsburgh Parks and Recreation Department has placed on file a mission statement for the Town of Plattsburgh and has outlined its goals for the town in this attachment. And it is further resolved that the Town of Plattsburgh Town Board does accept the mission statement and goals as proposed by the Parks and Recreation Department.
Have a motion.
So moved.
Mr. Wood, second.
Second.
Mr. Mannix.
Just by way of comment, some might wonder, especially somebody who might be watching, what's this about? This is an important step that Mel has asked us to take because as she seeks to go for grants, it's one of the things, in particular, when she's going for grants from private foundations. It's one of the things that they look for. Does the organization have a mission statement? Does this particular project fit the mission statement that time? So that's why she's proceeding to ask us to act on this.
And again, it speaks volumes to our department head, to Mel, that she would see this as something necessary to move forward in funding for the programs that she wants to initiate, and to take that initiative, send it to us saying, gentlemen and ladies, I need this. So, I better bring it.
I think it would be appropriate for me to read the mission statement. There are goals as well, but I'll just read the mission statement. The proposed mission statement reads, the Town of Plattsburgh Parks and Recreation Department is dedicated to enhancing the quality of life and promoting a sense of community within the town. In partnership with our citizens, we provide inclusive recreation program, facilities, and leisure services and strive to respond to the challenging needs within our community. Well done, I think.
As she pointed out, that she's already gone after and got the grant.
Yes.
Now, I would propose an addition to the third whereas. I was waiting to see if Mr. Wood caught that. I guess not. In the third whereas, I think we need to clarify in the second line, placed on file a mission statement for the Town of Plattsburgh Parks and Recreation Department. We should insert Parks and Recreation Department. I don't want it to imply a mission statement for the town.
And further.
Pardon?
And further. And it is.
It is further. You read so many of these and look at so many, you begin to see words that aren't even there. So I never picked up on that. Poor Amy's the one who reads what we put down sometimes or don't. Any other discussion? Roll call.
Thomas Wood.
Yes.
Sheila Broughway.
Yes.
Laura Brenda.
Yes.
Martin Mannix.
Yes.
Bernard Bassett.
Yes.
That was a good catch. Appreciate that.
I'm learning from you, Tom. Resolution 53.
Whereas it is in the best interest of the town that the new codes enforcement officer, Alan Reese, complete the basic code enforcement training. Therefore, be it resolved that the codes department be allowed to send Alan Reese to attend the code enforcement basic training courses 9C, D, E, and F, being held on March 10th through 12th, April 14th through 16th, May 12th through 14th, and June 9th through 11, 2009, at the Queensbury Fire Department in Queensbury, New York. And be further resolved that the training is free, but $640 for lodging and $336 for meals be charged to the Codes Department budget in support for the four training dates. Oh, anyway, it is further resolved that if the town vehicle must be taken, in the event none is available, $808 for mileage be charged to the Coast Department budget for travel and to and from the training.
Have a motion.
So moved.
Ms. Brockway, second.
Second.
Mr. Wood, any discussion?
I want to thank you for having the vouchers. with
The vouchers, the attached notes, yeah. It's important. I think if anything, it's a compliment if that's not there and you ask for it. You're really letting people know that you're interested in what they're doing and what they're learning, and I think that's the right thing, right position.
And this will be a valuable series of courses for our new endorsements.
Hopefully, we're trying, they cancel the courses, the state and the financial wisdom, they canceled the courses from last year, so we're trying to get them in now. And it could be just a rumor that these are going to be the only ones offered for the year as of June. They're not going to send trainers out anymore, so if you're on class now, you're not going to get it. It could be a rumor, but we don't have the prices that the state is in now, so we're trying to get them in and get them qualified as a code officer and get them in number so we can actually perform all the inspections.
It's the right thing to do. Thank you. Roll call.
Thomas Wood.
Yes.
Sheila Browfoot.
Yes.
Dora Renninger.
Yes.
Martin Mannix.
Yes.
Bernard Bassett.
Yes. Resolution 54.
Whereas the LaBerge Group Consulting Engineer for the town of Plattsburgh was successful in making an application for a $300,000 New York State home grant that is administered by the New York State Housing Trust Fund Corporation. And whereas the funding has been authorized and a request has been made for the town of Plattsburgh to enter into an agreement with the New York State Home Program. Therefore, be it resolved that after review and recommendation by the town attorney, the supervisor be and is hereby authorized to enter into the attached agreement with the HTFC to provide funds that will enable qualified residents to receive funding for a home improvement program. And to be further resolved that a certified copy of this resolution shall be shared with the town budget officer.
Have a motion?
So moved.
Mr. Renadette, second Mr. Wood.
Second.
Any discussion?
Bernie, will these improvements include winterization issues?
Yes, they're all energy focused, which
Yep.
would include the weatherization, more efficient energy. Could be a home that needs a complete heating system if they qualify.
Right. We've done these programs in the past, and they've been extremely successful, very beneficial. How are we administering this program?
We're doing something a little unique with this also. We've split the cost of administration with the consulting LaBerge Group, the authors of the grant, and in-house with Mr. Carell, Phil Carell, who's has a number of hats he's beginning to wear. But we're trying to more and more bring back some of these things that seem to have gotten lost that we should do. For example, today I spoke with Diane. We're going to be doing our own EPA disbursement request, or EFC rather, for the Cumberland Head project. Some of those things we don't need to farm out. We don't need to be paying to have it done. And even more important, when we do it ourselves, we know what we're waiting for and what's been done. It just takes a middle person out. The administration of the program will be done by the consulting engineer with the screening process, the training of the area contractors, and so on. But we did carve out the fiscal reporting piece. We do that in-house. And hopefully, you probably recall, we applied for this grant a year or two ago, and we were denied. This is the one that I got on the phone. I don't know who was more upset, the authors of the grant or me, and we got copies of their review. And after some phone calls, we were quite encouraged to do it again. And I'd remind you that in conversations with Ron LaBerge, the second grant application, we paid quite a bit less. I want to say it was half what we did the first time. And my rationale on that was a lot of the narrative work, you've done it. We're not paid to do it again.
That's right.
Let's go get it this time. They were very supportive of that. Yes, and I did speak with Diane about this as well, because we want to include any preliminary cost that we can back into the grant, so it doesn't come out of general fund. And reminded her this, we expect it to be coming. We were awarded the grant. And she also commented that, geez, we haven't done one of those in a lot of years. This is a good thing.
We did one of these in Treadwell's Mills a number of years ago.
That, I think, was the last one.
And literally, at that time, we had federal people who were literally trying to throw money at us with the idea that you go in, tear down, and build this brick structure that people would. The reality is, these were people's homes, and we were able to go in and we were able to make significant improvements to their homes and modest. I think one of if I'm not mistaken, we had a rule that it was like we didn't spend any more than it was either $1,500 or $2,500 per home. But in those days, it was long enough ago, that might have meant you put a new roof on it, you put new windows in it, you put a furnace in it. Those types of issues were addressed, and they made a big difference.
Yeah. And that's a lasting difference. Those improvements last for many years.
Bernie,
Yes.
how are people going to be able to apply?
There's a process. Mr. Corral has begun to work with that. There are a number of letters that we've sent out to agencies, letting them know that we had received this award and seeking their help to help us identify within the town of Plattsburgh qualifying homeowners. And we want to get as many people involved as we can. That's defined in this document.
It's not something you put on the website then?
Probably not at this point, but that is one of the things we do need to put on, town receives, make people aware.
Right.
Yeah, that wouldn't be the soliciting process, but yes, it should be shared then.
One thing that I would hope that we would have as a criteria on this, and I meant to talk to you about it before the meeting, is that this would be for homeowners, not for renters, because I know a lot of times we've expanded our water supply lines, and the income eligibility was there because of people who were renting, but ultimately it's the landlord who gets the benefit of this, and I think it's a sad state of affairs that landlords don't put anything back into their structures. These grants come along and make the structures worth a lot more money, and then all of a sudden rent goes up, people have to move out, and they've got a valuable piece of property. So I would hope that when this is administered, it's administered for property owners who need the assistance, not the landlords who should be doing it anyways.
Good point. Hopefully we identify, and I mean this in a very positive way, more need than we have funds, which will enable us to aggressively go out and seek more funds. And you're probably all thinking like I am, at a time when we're hearing about some block grant money to help stimulate the economy, our name has been pretty good in the hallways in Albany as far as a place that's getting the job done and investing in the community. So maybe we'll reap some more future benefit. But this is a very good program. We are talking about a press conference next Thursday, I believe it is, whatever that date is, the 29th. I need to speak with our media friends. We want to pull together the highlights and points of this, but we'll get that out. Once we confirm that, we'll announce that. And any of you, that can make it, certainly join us. But we do need to get the word out. And yes, Tom, that should be on the website. My immediate thought was the screening process has got to be very diverse. And I know when this grant's over, one of the big questions we're going to have to answer is, how did you select recipients? So it needs to be a very diverse, whole community involvement. Anything else? Roll call.
Thomas Wood?
Yes.
Joe Brockway?
Yes.
Gerard Rennie?
Yes.
Martin Mannix?
Yes.
Larry Bassett?
Yes. Resolution 55.
Whereas the town of Plattsburgh has previously awarded the Champlain Park Pump Station Contract Number 2, electrical to Mountain Lake Electrical, in the amount of $138,450. And whereas the emergency generator specified for the project was to operate using diesel fuel. And whereas there is a strong possibility of natural gas being extended to the project site in the near future, and said emergency generator can operate on natural gas. Whereas LaBerge Engineering and Consulting Group has reviewed and recommended a change to the generator such that it can operate on LP gas until such time as natural gas is available. And whereas the additional cost for the recommended generator change is $2,700, the cost of which can be paid for from the project financing. Now therefore be it resolved that the recommendation of said engineers be hereby accepted, approved, and adopted. And be further resolved that the town board authorize the supervisor to execute change order number C2-1, allowing an increase in the contract amount of $2,700, resulting in a total contract price of $141,150.
Have a motion?
So moved.
Mr. Renadat, second.
So moved.
Mr. Mannix, any discussion?
Yeah, on the change in the contract and stuff, and going to the natural gas, would this at all affect NICEAG's approval of moving the line out there?
No.
And if they don't move the line out there, are we going to be okay using the other?
Yeah, we'll run on propane.
On the propane,
Still
will
a better
that
deal.
cost the same or less than using diesel?
In the long run, as I understand it, Tom, it will be, because the maintenance on an engine that runs on propane is a lot less than the maintenance on an engine that runs on diesel. It burns cleaner. There's less maintenance on it over the years. I've actually put some emergency generators in myself that run on propane, and it's amazing the small amount of maintenance that's required if you look at the manual on these as opposed to when it runs on diesel. The maintenance, annual maintenance on them is almost nil.
So sometimes when we're using the cost of projects and how much expense is, we need to consider that also. We're talking about maintenance as well as the cost of the actual fuel itself.
The $2,700 increase in this will be returned to us, I would guess, within the course of about 2 to 3 years, just in maintenance on this machine.
Okay, anything else? Roll call.
Thomas Wood.
Yes.
Sheila Brafway.
I have to excuse myself.
Laura Brandon.
Yes.
Martin Mannix.
Yes.
Vernon Bassett.
Yes. Resolution 56.
Resolved to receive and place on file a resignation from Robert Chase regarding his appointment to the Town of Plattsburgh Assessment Review Board effective January 12, 2009. And it is further resolved that the Town Board of the Town of Plattsburgh does hereby wish to thank Mr. Chase for his service and wish him well with his future endeavors.
Have a motion.
I would ask that the board, all members of the board move this, and all members of the board second this.
I agree.
Any discussion on that? Is everyone in agreement?
Yes.
Yes.
So we would note all board members pass the motion, second the motion. It's on the table.
And it's not so much that we want him to go, it's because of the service that he's done. And
Right.
the fact that we like him to stay. That's why.
Absolutely.
I don't want it to be misinterpreted why we're doing this.
No, I think it's something that I think sends a message that, you know, that we're all in agreement that this person has done an outstanding job. We thank him for his many years of service to the town. And as a group, we both move it and
Yeah.
second it to send that definite message.
And on that note, I certainly agree.
No, Board of Assessment Review.
Oh, because it says planning board here.
It says planning.
Yeah. But it says planning board of review.
All right, let's get, yeah, we need to get
What's
that
each?
straight.
It should be the assessment.
Should be,
This is what
I
you were
didn't look
talking
at the
about
title.
before, you read it and you don't catch it.
Yeah, I didn't catch it.
GSS, Board of Assessment and Review.
He's
Should be
leaving the-
Board of Assessment and Review.
Oh. He's leaving
Didn't look at the
assessment-
title.
assessment review board.
No, you're only changing it on.
Assessment Review.
Just on the title of the resolution.
Yeah, on the title of the resolution.
I
That
didn't
was-
catch it.
I looked at the one on the letter.
I think it's Assessment Review Board.
Board,
Yes, that's in the
That's
body,
what it is.
Assessment Review Board. Yep.
So we need to change that at the top, that's all.
yeah.
Mhm.
Anything else? Roll call.
Thomas Wood.
Yes.
Sheila Brafway.
Yes.
Laura Brandon.
Yes.
Martin Mannix.
Yes.
Vernon Bassett.
Yes, and my footnote to that is his term expires December 31, 2012, and if we keep the pattern, the replacement, whoever replaces, would have a term to end 2012 as well. Correct. Make sure you.
And we'll have to have a replacement for that fairly soon, because I think they meet in
Do we have an alternate?
April or May. I don't think there's any alternates on the Board of Assessment.
I don't think so either. I don't have that total list with
Yeah,
me.
that's right too. should
Well,
be
we can
looking
bring
so-
that up at our next,
Maybe we're doing
meeting.
something like that.
and if anybody has any ideas, bring them to the meeting.
Because they only meet once a year, right around assessment time.
Correct. I had, last year, I talked with an individual, and he couldn't do it this year, but I don't know if he could look at coming into it. I mean, he couldn't do it in '08, he might be able to do it in '09. Go back.
Good.
It was, Christopher Booth.
Mhm.
No, that's
And he was in the midst of the hospital's
a
big,
big thing that they're doing.
expansion program, and he just couldn't consider it.
Yeah, maybe it's good now because they're quieting down.
For our work session, maybe you can give him a buzz. And everyone should certainly be doing the same thing. Resolution 57.
Whereas the Clinton County Cable Television Council, of which the town of Plattsburgh is a member, has negotiated with Falcon First Cable of New York, doing business as Charter Communications, the renewal of the TD Council municipal members' collective franchise agreements between the municipalities and Charter. And whereas the town of Plattsburgh Town Board has reviewed the negotiated agreement and the town attorney has approved the renewal agreement as to form. Now therefore it is resolved that the town board of the town of Plattsburgh approves the franchise renewal between the town of Plattsburgh and Charter Communications, and authorizes the supervisor to execute the same for the town. May be further resolved that the final approval and execution of said franchise agreement is subject to the approval of the New York State Public Service Commission.
Have a motion?
So moved.
Ms. Brockway, second,
Second
Mr.
by
Mannix. Any discussion?
Marty, you worked on this, didn't you?
For months.
And I did a few months prior to that. This is, this was 2 years, no, it's more than that.
More than that.
Way
And
more.
the first, and we, thank God,
4 or 5 years.
there was a change. When we first met, there was an individual representing Charter who basically, and it was a time when there was also a piece of national legislation that they were expecting was going to get passed. Okay, so he wasn't in the mood to negotiate anything. And he basically announced that there was no negotiation to take place here. They would present the contract and we would sign it. And we kind of explained to him that that wasn't quite the way we envisioned how it was going to unfold. Well, he's no longer in the employ of that company, and the gentleman that took his place was, you know, a totally different individual. But it was also, I think, significant that that piece of national legislation went by the boards. You know, when there was a change in the control of the Congress, that legislation died. When that legislation died, then they had no choice but to sit down and begin to negotiate.
I know, just speaking from past experience, I forget how many years ago it was, but we went through this also with the franchise, and what we were looking at was a number of safety violations that were found when we had an independent inspector go out. And if that kind of control is taken out of your hands where you don't have any say, if somebody can come forward and dig their heels in and say, here's the contract, sign it, and they have the backing of federal legislation that takes some of that away from home rule, from municipal governments, from allowing them to protect their residents, it's a sad state of affairs. So I would agree with you, Marty, that, you know, having that go by the boards was a good thing. If an entity like a Charter, a New York Telephone, anything like that can come and dictate to you, this is how it's going to be, sign it or not, we don't care. So I want to thank you for the work that you've done on this too. No thanks, gentlemen.
Well, and I'll tell you, Keith Herculo was the guy who headed this up, and the city clerk, and he did a magnificent job. And he spent a lot of time making sure that, you know, the meetings were scheduled and people were informed and things were ready when we got together to sit down.
Prior to, and Keith was involved, he wasn't chairing the committee. Prior to that, and when I was working with it, former Judge George Head was chairing the committee and doing an outstanding job, and he passed away about 2 years into the process. And Keith did step up to the plate, and there was a lot of gratis work to keep that going, get the notes, do the revisions, and he did it.
There was also a lady who was assigned from the New York State
Public Service
Commission, Patricia Johnson. She was a tremendous help to us. I mean, she really knew her stuff. And when there were plenty of instances where she was able to tell the cable company, no, what you're saying is not the way the law is. You know, and then we were able to proceed with the negotiation.
I'd like to thank everybody that worked on that. It's hard work.
It is an awful lot of work, and you know, I think any of us could sit here and read through this and say, well, I don't like this, and you left that out. But this is the end result of literally years of work, and a committee representing municipalities within the franchise area, and I think they did a great job.
We don't get to tell them what channels to put on. I mean,
What programs to
I've
have.
already had a few of my buddies
You don't.
complain that Nesson's not on the cable, you know, but I wasn't able to do it.
Not that there wasn't an effort to do that.
Well,
You
it
know
was
it
mentioned.
Wasn't going to happen. Okay, roll call.
Thomas Wood?
Yes.
Sheila Brockway?
Yes.
Gerard Benedict?
Yes.
Martin Mannix?
Yes.
Roger Johnson?
Yes. Marty, I will contact Keith. I'm sure he will need a copy of this. We'll sign off, and away we go. Now, The signatures required, and what I think I'll do is pass this while we enter into our last agreement. It requires the signature of each of our town councilors.
I mean, if one of us doesn't sign,
So I'll pass it
No.
over and go down the line.
no, I know, it's not what
Because we're not spending money, I think only 3 really need to sign.
Probably. Resolution 58, which was a late addition in this horse race. This is abstract 1A09 that we really didn't anticipate, but the budget officer told me she can get these bills out, and I always like to pay bills as soon as we can.
Resolved that the abstract of audited claims number 1A in the amount of $595,773.79 be received as reviewed by the audit committee, and the supervisors hereby authorized to pay said abstracts.
So moved.
Mr. Brockway, second.
Second.
Mr. Renadette, any discussion?
Yeah, I think in the first line, where it says number, it says 1A, I think it should say 1A-09.
I think you're
Oh, yeah.
right, that would be a good change. Anything else?
I just want to, for the record, say that I'm about 80% through with auditing these. Ms. Brockway has audited them all, but I found no discrepancies today, as of yet with these, so I'm going to vote in the affirmative, and I will finish them up at the end of this meeting.
Thank you. Roll call.
Thomas Wood?
Yes.
Sheila Brockway?
Yes.
Gerard Brennan?
Yes.
Martin Mannix?
Yes.
Bernard Bassett?
Yes, that's the end of the agenda this evening. If no one has anything else, I will ask for a motion to adjourn. Mr. Wood, do we have a second?
Second.
Ms. Brockway, any discussion? Roll call.
Thomas Wood?
Yes.
Sheila Brockway?
Yes.
Gerard Brennan?
Yes.
Martin Mannix?
Yes.
Bernard Bassett?
Yes, we'll stand adjourned at 8:10 p.m.
the New York City trip pretty well.
New York City is pretty well set. The other thing I placed in your mailbox, yes, we have to shut that off. I placed in your mailbox a copy of a letter from Jeff Habner. He did some calculating, and what he surfaced is that for a municipality